in the heart of a city battered by relentless storms and unforeseen disasters. There existed a neighborhood where community spirit and resilience were tested time and again. The night was unusually dark and bitterly cold, with winds that howled along empty streets and rain that pounded relentlessly against broken windows. Amid the chaos of nature's fury and urban decay, one modest home became the unlikely stage for an act of quiet heroism, a story that would later inspire many and serve as a testament to the enduring bond between humans and their animal companions. Marcus, a resourceful and determined man with a reputation for caring deeply about his neighbors, had spent years navigating the unpredictable challenges of city life. Known for his ingenious ability to adapt in the face of adversity, he had transformed his small apartment into a refuge. Despite losing his home during a previous disaster, Marcus's circumstances were dire, his belongings were few, his possessions scattered by the unpredictable winds of fate, and he now found himself sheltering in a temporary communal space provided by local charities. Yet even in the midst of hardship, Marcus's heart remained open, and he believed in the power of community, a belief that had once led him to adopt a loyal companion from a local shelter. A Pitbull he named Max. Max was not an ordinary dog. His rugged exterior, marked by a mottled coat of deep browns and grays, spoke of a past spent on the streets, a past of uncertainty and survival. But beneath that weathered appearance lay a heart of gold and instincts that defied expectations. Over time, Max's gentle eyes and calm demeanor had won over Marcus, forging an unbreakable bond between them. Through long days of struggle and nights fraught with worry, Max's quiet presence had become a beacon of hope for Marcus, a living reminder that loyalty and courage could be found even in the most unassuming souls. On one fateful night, when the winds howled outside and the city's underbelly trembled under the strain of a relentless storm, a crisis emerged that would test the limits of community solidarity. A sudden, violent flash flood struck a nearby low-lying area, leaving many residents, including a homeless neighbor named Samuel, stranded and in desperate need of emergency medical supplies. Samuel was a gentle soul who had lost his home to the floods and now relied on the kindness of passers-by for his daily needs. Among the essential supplies were medications critical to managing his chronic condition, a condition that, without timely intervention, could quickly become life-threatening. Marcus, ever resourceful, had long prepared for emergencies. In his modest apartment, he had carefully organized a small kit of essential items, non-perishable food, blankets, and, most importantly, a compact, secure container filled with vital medical supplies and medications donated by a local clinic. Recognizing the dire situation unfolding in his community, Marcus resolved to help, yet with the heavy rain and treacherous flooded streets, venturing out to deliver these life-saving supplies was fraught with danger. That night, as Marcus peered through rain-streaked windows at the turbulent streets below, Max sensed the urgency in his owner's eyes and the underlying tension in the air. There was a restlessness in Max that went beyond his usual protective nature. His eyes darted toward Marcus and then toward the distant sound of distress, muffled cries carried on the wind, and the faint echo of someone calling for help amid the chaos. In a moment of silent understanding, Marcus decided that he must act quickly. With the container of supplies securely fastened to a small, specially designed carrier attached to Max's harness, he prepared his loyal companion for the perilous journey ahead. Max's training had been rigorous and multifaceted. Under Marcus's careful guidance, he had learned to navigate urban obstacles, to remain calm under pressure, and to follow directional commands with unwavering precision. But beyond the technical skills, Max had developed an almost intuitive sense of empathy. As Marcus gently patted Max's head, the bond between man and dog grew even stronger, affirming the silent promise they shared, to help those in need, no matter the personal risk. Stepping out into the storm, Marcus and Max braved the deluge. Rain pounded on their makeshift shelter, a temporary bus station converted into a community aid center, where many had sought refuge from the rising waters. The streets were chaotic, cars abandoned and flooded, and debris scattered like remnants of a shattered life. Yet Marcus's resolve was unyielding. Navigating carefully through the flooded sidewalks, he relied on Max's keen senses to guide him through the murky darkness. The dog's powerful legs cut through the water, his movements determined and sure despite the swirling currents. Their destination was a precarious encampment near the edge of the disaster zone where Samuel had taken shelter. Along the way, the duo encountered numerous obstacles: fallen branches blocking narrow alleys, submerged curbs that threatened to slow their progress, and the constant, nerve-wracking sound of sirens in the distance. But with every step, Marcus and Max grew more attuned to the rhythm of the storm and the quiet urgency of their mission. In a silent communion of trust, Max would pause at critical junctures, sniffing the air, as if ensuring that every obstacle was surmountable, every threat manageable. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity in the harsh, rain-soaked night, they arrived at the encampment. The area was a somber tableau of human suffering and resilience, a cluster of makeshift tents, scattered belongings, and faces etched with worry. Among the crowd, Samuel sat huddled beneath a thin blanket, his frail figure illuminated by the flickering light of a single lantern. His eyes, filled with a mixture of resignation and hope, lifted as he saw Marcus approach with Max by his side. The delivery of the medical supplies was met with tears of gratitude from Samuel, whose survival depended on the timely intervention that Marcus and Max had risked their lives to provide. In the ensuing moments, a palpable shift occurred in the encampment. Neighbors, previously resigned to the harshness of their reality, began to share smiles and words of encouragement. Samuel, clutching the container of supplies, expressed heartfelt thanks to Marcus and, with a soft pat on Max's head, acknowledged the dog as his unlikely guardian. Interviews recorded later by local media captured these raw, unfiltered emotions, stories of loss transformed into hope, despair turned into gratitude, and the quiet heroism of a resourceful man and his loyal dog emerging as a beacon for the community. As the storm subsided and dawn broke over a battered but resilient city, the story of that night began to spread. Local news segments featured interviews with Marcus, who recounted in emotional detail how Max's unwavering loyalty had not only delivered life-saving supplies but had also rekindled the spirit of a community that had been pushed to its limits. It wasn't just about medicine, Marcus said in one tearful interview. It was about showing that even in our darkest hours, there's always hope, and that sometimes, hope comes on four legs. The poignant narrative resonated with viewers across the region, igniting a wave of community action, increased support for disaster relief, and a re-evaluation of how society viewed the roles of animals in emergency response. Community organizations soon used this incident as a rallying point to advocate for improved disaster preparedness, better support for the homeless, and more comprehensive training for rescue animals. Workshops, fundraisers, and public safety campaigns were organized, all carrying the central message that compassion and resourcefulness can overcome even the most daunting challenges. The story of Marcus and Max was celebrated as a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the extraordinary bond that can exist between a person and their pet, a bond that transcends the hardships of life and offers a lifeline in the most desperate moments. Local universities and research institutions took a keen interest in the case, launching studies into the effectiveness of animal-assisted interventions during emergencies. Preliminary research indicated that the presence of a calm, well-trained animal can significantly reduce stress and improve decision-making during crises. These findings were later presented at national conferences, earning accolades and further cementing the story's place as a symbol of hope and resilience. As the community slowly began to rebuild and heal in the wake of the storm, the impact of that fateful night endured. The Anderson family's story was woven into the fabric of local lore, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, a single act of kindness could spark a cascade of hope. Max's legacy as a guardian and savior became a touchstone for future disaster relief efforts, inspiring countless individuals to recognize the latent potential in every living being to serve as a protector in times of need. Local media continued to follow Marcus and Max's journey, with follow-up segments documenting how the duo remained active in community outreach. Interviews with homeless advocates, disaster preparedness experts, and mental health professionals all pointed to the profound influence that a single, compassionate act can have on an entire community. It's a beautiful paradox, one advocate explained in a reflective interview, that in a moment of crisis, the simplest act, a dog delivering medicine, can remind us of our shared humanity and our capacity for empathy. Such sentiments resonated deeply, reinforcing the belief that even amid chaos, hope could be found, nurtured by the bonds we share with one another. In time, the narrative of that stormy night evolved into a broader movement for change. The story of Marcus, Samuel, and Max was used to highlight the need for better urban planning in disaster-prone areas, improved support systems for the homeless, and the integration of animal-assisted therapy into emergency response frameworks. Local government officials, inspired by the tangible impact of the incident, implemented new policies to ensure that emergency services were more responsive and that communities had the necessary resources to withstand future disasters. The legacy of Max's courageous delivery was celebrated at annual community events, where his image, a symbol of hope, loyalty, and unyielding resilience, was displayed with pride. In reflective interviews with survivors and community leaders, the words of gratitude for Max's intervention were echoed time and again. Families recounted how the simple act of a Pitbull delivering essential supplies had not only saved lives but had also restored their faith in humanity. It's amazing how one small act can bring an entire community together. One neighbor noted, his voice filled with emotion, "Max's actions remind us that when we work together, no challenge is insurmountable, and hope can always light the way." As the narrative of that extraordinary night continued to inspire, Marcus and Max's journey remained a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds that form in the crucible of crisis. Their story, recorded and shared through countless interviews, news segments, and community events, became a rallying cry for those who believed in the transformative power of love and the potential of every individual, human or animal, to rise above adversity and bring about meaningful change. In the immediate hours following the delivery, the storm's fury began to subside as if acknowledging that a small but significant battle had been won. The rain, which had earlier poured down in relentless sheets, eased into a gentle drizzle. In its wake, a pale light crept over the battered city, revealing a scene of both devastation and resilience. The Anderson family, along with the other residents who had taken shelter at the makeshift aid center, emerged into a quiet morning filled with a mix of relief, cautious optimism, and a profound sense of unity. News of Max's daring delivery spread like wildfire throughout the neighborhood. Early in the day, local news vans parked outside the community aid center, their cameras capturing every detail of a story that had quickly become a symbol of hope. Reporters interviewed the Anderson family, who spoke with heartfelt emotion about the chaos of the previous night. Tears glistened in the eyes of those recounting how, amidst the storm and flooded streets, Max had bravely navigated the urban obstacles to bring life-saving medical supplies to Samuel, a homeless neighbor whose fragile health depended on the timely delivery of critical medication. At a local press conference held later that morning, city officials and safety experts emphasized that the incident was a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by many in times of crisis. One city council member, with a voice marked by both urgency and resolve, stressed the need for improved disaster preparedness and better support for the homeless. "We must ensure that our most vulnerable citizens are never left without aid," he declared. Max's heroic act has shown us that sometimes, even a small, determined dog can inspire us to build a stronger, more compassionate community. His words resonated deeply, sparking discussions about public safety measures, including upgraded emergency response protocols and increased funding for community aid initiatives. Local animal welfare organizations quickly recognized the transformative potential of Max's story. Inspired by his actions, several groups launched campaigns to promote the training of rescue dogs for emergency tasks. Workshops were organized in community centers, where experts taught pet owners techniques for harnessing a dog's natural instincts for critical interventions. These sessions were not only practical but also deeply emotional, as trainers recounted similar stories of loyal canines who had stepped into roles far beyond the scope of what many thought possible. Volunteers shared footage of Max's journey through flooded streets, his determined eyes and powerful strides serving as a living testament to the profound bond between a pet and its owner. The impact of the event extended well beyond the immediate crisis. Samuel, the homeless neighbor who had received the emergency supplies, became a living symbol of hope for many in the community. Though his life had been upended by the disaster, Samuel's resilience shone through, and he was soon embraced by local aid groups that provided shelter, food, and medical care. In several touching interviews, Samuel expressed his deep gratitude for the timely delivery that not only saved his life but also reminded him that he was not forgotten. "When I saw that little package, I knew someone cared enough to send help," he said, his voice wavering with emotion. "I never imagined that a dog could be a lifeline." His words struck a chord with viewers across the region, prompting many to contribute to local charities and volunteer programs aimed at supporting those in need during emergencies. Meanwhile, academic interest in the incident grew as well. Local universities and research institutions launched studies to analyze the effectiveness of using trained animals in emergency response scenarios. Researchers were particularly fascinated by how a dog like Max could navigate a hazardous environment, filled with flooded roads, debris, and unstable ground, to deliver critical supplies safely. In one symposium, a team of scientists presented preliminary findings that suggested a dog's olfactory and navigational abilities could be harnessed in new ways to aid disaster response. They proposed that, with proper training and community integration, more animals could serve as invaluable assets in crisis situations, complementing technological solutions. These discussions led to pilot programs funded by local government grants and private donations, with the goal of incorporating animal-assisted interventions into broader public safety strategies. In the weeks that followed, community outreach initiatives blossomed. Town hall meetings, previously sparsely attended, saw record numbers as residents voiced their support for enhanced safety measures and expressed their admiration for Max's heroic deed. Flyers and posters, vibrantly designed and adorned with the image of a determined Pitbull, were distributed across the neighborhood, urging residents to install carbon monoxide detectors, check their emergency kits, and support local disaster relief efforts. The public response was overwhelmingly positive, and local businesses began offering discounts on safety equipment in honor of the event, further cementing the legacy of that stormy night. The Anderson family, deeply moved by the chain of events, took their story to local schools, sharing first-hand accounts of how a pet's loyalty and training had transformed a dire situation into a beacon of hope. In classrooms, teachers discussed the importance of preparedness and empathy, using Max's journey as an inspiring case study in resilience and community spirit. Art projects emerged where students created portraits of heroic animals, and essay contests invited young people to write about the role of compassion in times of crisis. These educational initiatives not only honored Max's legacy but also inspired a new generation to value and nurture the bonds between humans and their animal companions. As the city slowly began to recover from the disaster, the story of that fateful night became a touchstone for rebuilding efforts. Local government officials, spurred by the public's heartfelt response, convened special sessions to evaluate current emergency protocols and to invest in new technologies and training programs for disaster response. Plans were set in motion to improve infrastructure in vulnerable areas, including better drainage systems, improved street lighting, and designated safe zones for residents during natural disasters. In these meetings, Max's actions were cited as a prime example of how every member of the community, human or animal, could contribute to a safer, more resilient future. We've seen firsthand that sometimes our greatest protectors come on four legs, one official remarked, and his statement was met with resounding applause. In the broader media landscape, the narrative of Max's bravery resonated far beyond the confines of the local community. National news networks picked up the story, and documentaries were produced to highlight the innovative ways in which trained animals were being used in disaster response across the country. Interviews with experts in animal behavior, emergency management, and public health painted a comprehensive picture of how integrated, community-based approaches to safety could not only save lives but also bring people together in times of hardship. Social media exploded with heartfelt tributes, as videos, images, and personal stories related to Max's intervention circulated widely. Hashtags like #MaxTheGuardian and #EmergencyPause trended for days, uniting diverse audiences under a shared belief in the power of compassion. Amid these widespread celebrations, the Anderson family remained humble, focusing instead on helping others prepare for the unpredictable forces of nature. They partnered with local nonprofits to host workshops on disaster preparedness, where they demonstrated simple yet effective strategies for safeguarding one's home and ensuring that essential supplies were always on hand. These sessions, often held in community centers and schools, were designed to empower residents with knowledge and resources, ensuring that no one would be caught unprepared in the face of future emergencies. One particularly memorable workshop featured a panel discussion where survivors of past disasters shared their experiences, interlaced with expert advice on emergency response. Marcus, a longtime volunteer who had assisted in the aftermath of previous storms, spoke passionately about the need for community solidarity and mutual support. "It's not just about weathering the storm," he explained. "It's about coming together afterward, recognizing the strength we have when we unite, and remembering that sometimes, a simple act of courage, like a dog delivering medicine, can spark a chain reaction of hope." His words, recorded and shared on local news channels, further solidified the idea that every act of compassion was a building block for a safer, more connected community. In the months that followed, research findings from local universities were published, offering quantitative evidence of the positive impact of animal-assisted interventions during disasters. These studies revealed that communities with active pet training programs and integrated emergency protocols experienced lower levels of post-disaster anxiety and improved recovery rates. The data, presented in both academic journals and public forums, underscored the transformative potential of leveraging the unique abilities of animals like Max. They highlighted that a well-trained animal's presence could reduce stress hormones, improve mental clarity, and even facilitate faster medical response times, a scientific validation that resonated deeply with policymakers and the public alike. Throughout this extended period of recovery, the Anderson family's story continued to serve as a beacon of hope and inspiration. Their journey, marked by resilience in the face of nature's fury and bolstered by the unwavering loyalty of a remarkable dog, became a living testament to the power of community and the enduring bonds that tie us together. In reflective interviews, Sarah and David spoke of how the crisis had deepened their appreciation for life and strengthened their commitment to helping others. "We lost so much that night, but we gained something invaluable, a reminder that even in our darkest hours, the smallest act of courage can light the way," Sarah said, her voice soft yet resolute. Her sentiment was echoed by many who had been touched by the story, reaffirming the belief that every challenge held the potential for transformation. As the city rebuilt its infrastructure and renewed its focus on disaster preparedness, community events were organized to celebrate the spirit of resilience that had emerged from the chaos. Annual festivals and safety fairs featured special exhibits dedicated to the role of trained animals in emergency response, with interactive demonstrations and live training sessions that allowed residents to witness firsthand the capabilities of these remarkable creatures. Max's image was displayed on banners, T-shirts, and digital billboards, serving as a constant reminder that hope often comes in the most unexpected forms. These events not only educated the public but also provided a platform for sharing stories of survival, bravery, and the quiet heroism of everyday life. Local schools, inspired by the legacy of Max, continued to incorporate his story into their curricula. Art classes produced murals that depicted a heroic dog against a backdrop of stormy skies and emerging sunlight, symbolizing the triumph of hope over adversity. Creative writing contests invited students to explore themes of courage, community, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. In these classrooms, the narrative of that tumultuous night was transformed into a series of lessons that not only honored the past but also looked forward to a future defined by preparedness, empathy, and unity. By the time the next disaster season approached, the city was markedly different from what it had been before Max's intervention. New policies were in place, community training programs were thriving, and residents felt a renewed sense of security bolstered by the knowledge that their community was prepared for the unexpected. The Anderson family's experience, along with the broader movement it inspired, had paved the way for a culture of mutual support and proactive resilience that promised to safeguard lives for years to come. In closing, The story of Max's courageous delivery of emergency medical supplies and the subsequent transformation of a community serves as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, a spark of compassion can ignite a flame of hope. The legacy of that night lives on in every life saved, every heart healed, and every community that continues to stand together in the face of adversity. Max, with his unwavering loyalty and exceptional instincts, remains not only a guardian of his family but also a symbol of the enduring strength of the human-animal bond, a bond that proves time and again that heroes often come on four legs.